ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णा प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णा चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थेषुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्वस्ति अस्तु विश्वस्य खलः प्रसीदतां ध्यायन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया। मनश्च भद्रं भजतादधोक्षजे आवेश्यतां नो मतिरप्यहेतुकी। Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, verse number 6. So we are continuing to study the prayers of Brahma, and in the previous slokas we read how Brahma established that it's only by bhakti that Krishna can be understood, by Anvayan Vyatireka. So there are two aspects to Krishna. One is the Nirguna aspect, the other is the Saguna aspect, and therefore there are two types of spiritualists: impersonalists and personalists. So impersonalists, they think that the absolute reality is Nirakar, Nirguna, without quality, form, and it's designated as Brahman. And personalists think that absolute reality is a person and has name, form, qualities, and the most popular one is Vishnu, and here Krishna. So in this particular sloka, number 6, Brahma is giving the process how to have experience of Brahman, or what is the process of having Brahman realization. Because if Brahman does not have a form and does not have a quality, then how can you have an experience of it? Whatever experience we have in our life are of things which have form, qualities. If not form, at least the quality is there. Form may be invisible like air, but we experience the sense of touch. We can feel the air. So how do you experience something which is beyond form and beyond qualities or beyond sense perception, and which is vast, all pervasive? So therefore this is difficult to understand. All experience that we have that experience with the help of our mind. And mind is material. And mind, whatever it experiences only limited objects. And only part of an object. We never have a complete experience of any object. Although people speak so much about pratyaksha, perception, but actually you cannot see anything fully. So some people say that there is actually no direct perception. There is a purvapaksha. It's all anuman. Because you only see the front part of an object and then you make an assumption that the back part is also there, the top is there, the bottom is there. But you don't see it. So how do you know that it is there? You are making just like you see the smoke and you make an assumption, you make an inference that fire is there because smoke is there. So you see the front side, then you make an inference that there is back side. So therefore it's anumanam. It's only an inference. So even material objects, you cannot have full perception of anything. People are very proud. If God is there, show me God. You cannot even see this. Not to speak of seeing God. So how will you perceive something which doesn't even have a form, like space, or mind, or Atma? So here that process is being described in this sloka. So let's see if we can grasp it. तथापि भूमन् महिमा गुणस्य ते विबोद्धुमर्हत्यमलन्तरात्मभिः अविक्रियात् स्वादनुभवादरूपतो ह्यनन्यबोध्यात्मतया न चान्यथा. So he says, O Bhuman, O Supreme, even then your Mahima, where is Mahima? So Agunasya te Mahima. So Mahima here means Brahman. Although Mahima literally means glory, majesty, greatness. But here it means Brahman. That your Mahima of you, which is Aguna, Vibodhum Arhati, it is experienced, or it is possible to have an experience of it. Vibodhum Arhati, Arha means it's possible. By whom? Amalantaratmabhi. Those whose minds are free from all impurity. All the malas, kam, krodha, lobha, moha, matsarya, all this. So they can experience. And how do they experience it? Avikriyat. So he will explain it, what these words mean. Each word has significance. So when there is no vikar in your mind, our mind is always undergoing transformation because the sensations are coming from outside and they make vritti, as we studied in Vedanta Paribhasha. So we see things outside, then chitta makes a chitta vritti. So that is called a vikar, a transformation. But if you can stop that completely, avikriyat, then it is possible. So this is the requirement. So if the mind becomes devoid of all chitta vrittis, all mental transformations, chitta vritti nirodha, that's how Patanjali defines the yoga. So all the modifications, if they are removed from the chitta, then Brahman manifests there. Svanubhavat. So then in Swa means itself, that it's experienced itself, arupato, and this is arupata, means rupa means form, which here means a vishaya. So it is not an object of experience. Generally when we have an experience, then we have an object of experience. Even those devotees who see Krishna, then Krishna is the object of their seeing. But Brahman is not an object of anyone's perception. Brahman cannot become an object of experience. That is the meaning of arupata. So this is the difference. When you have material experience, then material experience you have subject-object. So you are the subject of experience, and whatever you are experiencing, that is the object of your experience. So there is this Triputi, there is this Trinity, there is experiencer, the experience, and the experiencer, knower, known, and knowledge. So there is Gyata, Gya, and Gyan. So we are the knower, and we have the knowledge, and then there is the object of which we have the knowledge. So these three things are always there in the experience. But this is an experience where these three things are not there. There is no knower, there is no known, there is no knowledge. That's what is called Svanubhava. It's an experience of the experiencer, and that is itself the experience. And therefore it is arupata. Therefore it does not have any vishaya, does not have an object. Arupata here means devoid of any object of perception. So Brahman is not an object of experience or perception. So he ananya bodhyatmataya. How does it happen? You have to have ananya bodh. Means you cannot have distinction from the object which you are experiencing. You and Brahman have to have oneness. That's why there is no subject-object distinction. So nanya iti ananya. So ananya bodhya. Bodhya means that object of knowledge. That object of knowledge is not different from you. So although it is being called here as bodhya, but really speaking it is not bodhya, it is not the object of bodha or experience. Because you are ananya, you are one with it. So that is the only way it can be experienced, by identification with it. So that means when it happens, then it is non-different from you. Because at the level of Brahman, ekam eva aditiyam Brahman. At the level of Brahman there are no two, it's only one. Advitiya, no two. So if you have to experience, then you have to be one with it, because two is not there. So therefore in Hindi says, जब मैं था तब तू नहीं, जब तू था तो मैं नहीं. When I had the feeling I am there, then I don't experience you. When I experience you, then I am gone. Because there is no you and I there. This distinction of I and you does not exist. That's why I said Svanubhavat. So just as Sri Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that there are three types of knowledge. So when he talks about Sattvic Gyan, then he says Avibhaktam Vibhaktesu. So Sarvbhutesu Yenekam, Sarvbhutesu Yenekam Avyam Bhavam. So in all the bhutas you only see one bhava. Sarvbhutesu Yenekam Bhavam Avyam Ikshate. Avibhaktam Vibhakteshu Tasjnanam Vidhi Sattvikam. So we try to understand this, what he is saying. So he says, Sarvbhuteshu Yena Ekam Bhavam Avyam Ikshate. That you perceive only one bhav in everything. So basically, although he is saying you perceive it, but actually perceiver is also that one only. So that is the Sattvic Gyan. Avibhakteshu. So Sarvbhutesu Yenekam Bhavam Avyam Ikshate. So it is only one avya imperishable existence. Bhava means existence. There is only one existence which is existing. So avibhaktam vibhakteshu. And this is not divided, undivided. So that is Sattvic. So that's why at Sattvic level it is just no distinction. The distinction happens at the Rajas level. That's where the duality comes. At the Sattvic level there is no duality. So therefore it is Ananya Bodhyatmantaya, Nacha Anyatha, and there is no other way of having this experience. This is the only way that one can have this. So this is what is called Brahma Sakshatkar. So let's see the commentary. So evam yadyapi kevalaya prem bhaktya eva tab sakshat etat swarup anubhavo bhavati. So earlier he said that it is only by prem bhakti that you can have experience of Krishna as a person, not otherwise. So kevalaya prem bhaktya eva tab sakshat etat swarupan. The way Krishna is there, that is perceived only by premi bhaktas, only by devotional love. So tathapi keval jnanasya vigitatvat, and keval gyan, that is decried. So kleshala eva shishyate, right? Keval bodha labdhe bhaktim sritim udasya. So he says that they don't get anything. So he says that is vigita, that is not acceptable. But bhakti misra jnanam api tab nirvishesh brahma swarup anubhave karanam bhavati. So Brahman can be realized by bhakti misra jnana. Means when one takes the help of bhakti to have an experience of Brahman. as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mam chaya vyabhicharene bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samtityatan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So that brahma bhuyaya means to have an experience of Brahman. That is the brahma bhuyaya. So that's what he is saying here, that this is the Bhakti Misra Jnana. Tab nirvishesha Brahma Swarup Anubhave Karanam Bhavati. So that is the means to have an experience of nirvishesha Brahman, Brahman without any qualities. Kintu jnanam cha mai sanyasediti tadukter jnanam sanyasanantaram eva ityaha. But this Gyan is not the Gyan of Advaitvadis also, just pure Advaitvadis, because Krishna says in 11th Canto that one should surrender Gyan also to me. So that means after Gyan has been given, so Gyanam Sannyasa Anantaram eva. So this is different type of Gyan. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Samam Sarvesu Bhutesu Mad Bhakti Labte Param. So Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati Yavaniyaschasmi Tattvata Tato Mam Tattvato Gyatva Vishate Tadanantaram. So that Vishate Tadanantaram, that is the Brahma Gyan. So he is talking about that. So this word Gyan can be confusing. Therefore he says Sannyasanantaram eva ityaha tathapi. So he says that although it is not possible to experience you without Prema Bhakti, but with Gyan Mishra Bhakti you can have experience of Brahman. Yadyapi Kevala Bhaktir na syat tadapi ityartha. So what is tathapi means that even if one does not have Prema Bhakti, still one can have experience of your Mahima, your majestic form in the Brahman. So he Bhuman, so Bhu Pradurbhava Tadyukta Madhura Etad Rupa Pradurbhavavan. So Bhuman, here Bhu means, he says to appear, manifest. Man is Matu Pratyaya. So you who are manifest here in this form, and you contain Brahman also in this form, that is the significance of Bhuman here. So Pradurbhavas Tadyukta Madhura Etad Rupa Pradurbhavan. Agunasya Prakrit Gunarahitasya. So Agunasya, you are free from Prakrit Guna, material gunas. Tav Mahima. So Tav Mahima Vibodhum Arhati. So what is this Mahima? What is he talking about? Because he is not saying that they can have experience of your Rupa or your qualities. He says your Mahima. So he says Mahima is Mahatvam Brihatva Rupa Eko Dharma. So this Mahima is one characteristic of Bhagavan, which is Mahatva, which is great, which is all pervading. That is Brahman. How do you know that this is Brahman? He says this is stated in Bhāgavatam. Madiyam Mahimanam cha Parabrahmeti Shabditam Vetsi Anugrhitam me Samprashnair Vivritam Hridi. So this is spoken by Matsya Avatar to King Satyavrata. And Satyavrata got that fish, and he was protecting the fish. And then fish kept on becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Finally he has to put it in the ocean. Then the fish spoke to him and said that I will come back, and then you will realize my Mahima, which is called Parabrahma. So there it is directly stated that my Mahima is called Parabrahma. Parabrahmeti Shabditam. That the word Parabrahman is used for this Mahima. It's like this says Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdate. That these three Shabdas are used. So same Shabditam. Vetshi anugrihitam me samprashnai vivritam hriday. So you will know this when you will inquire from me. Then by my anugraha, by my grace, you will have an experience of it. Iti tvadukte. And the word Mahima is also used by Dhruv Maharaj for referring to Brahman. So he says, Sam Brahmani Swamahimni Nathma Bhuta iti. So there also he is saying that Mahima, your Mahima, which is called Brahman. So he is just citing these two references to show that the word Mahima is used for Brahman. So iti Dhruvoktascha, this is in the prayers of Dhruva, Mahima Shabdena Prasiddham Param Brahma. So the word Mahima here in this sloka, it refers to Parabrahma. Vibodhum swameva vibodhyo bhavitum arthi. So vibodhum arhati, this is little misleading. Means you deserve to know. So when you say you deserve to know, then naturally you are the knower and that is to be known. So therefore here they have to little bit exercise some grammatical rules. So therefore it says vibodhum swameva vibodhyo bhavitum arhati. So he says that this vibodhum arhati, it is a karma kartri prayoga. So in Sanskrit there are usages where the karma, the object, is stated as the agent. It's like you say that you cook rice, and sometimes you can say rice cooks. So when you say rice cooks by itself is understood, then rice is actually the karta, the agent in this sentence, and cooks is the verb. When you say you cook rice, then you are the agent and rice is the object of cooking. So when things happen by themselves or things happen easily, then there is this prayog or usage is called karma karta. Kriya manam tiyat karmam swayam siddham pratiyate atyanta sukritvena karma karta iti tadvidu. So when the karma, because karma is that which is performed by the agent. Karta is what he is doing the work. That's why, or that's what he is trying to achieve through his karma is the object of your action. What you are trying to achieve with your action, that is the karma. So means it is the agent who is achieving it. That achievement may be in the sense of acquiring it, changing it, destroying it, or giving it up, attaining it. Different. There are 4, sometimes 5 types of karmas. Prapya, samskarya, vikarya, sanskarya, tyajya, all this. But the action is performed for that karma. Kriyayat sadhika tat karma. The action, the kriya is performed. Kriya is the means to get that or to attain your object of your action. But if the thing happens easily, then you can make the karma itself as the subject of the action. So as he gives example here. So pachyate odanaha swameva itivat karmana kartritvam. So pachyate odana, the rice cooks by itself. Means you put it on the water, it's not that you do some big hard work to cook it. If you have to make rabdi, then you have to take the milk and you have to continuously move it, otherwise it will stick to the bottom. So you are actually doing. But when you have to cook rice, put it in water, turn on the heat and leave it. So it's so easy. So therefore he says, Odanaha pachyate, that what you cook, the rice is cooking by itself. So here the Odana has become the karta, the agent of the verb cooking. Means the rice cooks. So he says here also, when it says vibodhum arhati, that the meaning is that it happens. Vibodhyate or vibodhyo bhavitum arhati, that is the meaning. Or other example is says yatha kuthara swayameva vriksham chinatti, that you cut the tree with an axe. So kutharena vriksham chinatti, so he is cutting the tree with an axe. So here he is the karta, kuthara or the axe is the instrument, and vriksha is the object, karma, and chinatti, cutting, is the verb. So if you have to make karma karta from here, then he said kutharaha chinatti, kutharaha vriksham chinatti, the axe is cutting the tree. So you are cutting the tree or the axe is cutting the tree? So vivakshataha karakani bhavanti. It is up to the speaker how he wants to say it. You can say you are cutting the tree. You can also say the axe is cutting the tree. So when you say you are cutting the tree, you are the agent of cutting, the verb cutting. When you say axe is cutting the tree, then axe is the agent. Although axe is actually the instrument, because you use the axe is not going to cut by itself. So if you analyze that who is doing the cutting, you are doing the cutting or the axe is doing the cutting. So there is a lot of discussion on these things when you study the philosophy of grammar. These are big topics. Who cuts? Is it the energy which is cutting? Because axe cannot cut by itself. You also cannot cut it by itself. So you put your energy, then energy is cutting. So is it energy is cutting or the axe is cutting or you are cutting? So a lot of question answer on this. So therefore when you speak, you can speak in different ways. So here he says it is axe which is cutting. So karanasya kartritvam vivakshitam. Yes.
The first example, pachyate odanaha. So it is though it is karma kartari, but it is karmani vachya is used there, pachyate.
Yeah. So karam kartari atmane padam. So in karam kartari atmane pad is used.
Yeah. And the second example, kuthar is an instrument, it's a karana, but it's still used here as a karta then.
Yes. That's why I said that the axe is cutting.
And it's also parpad there.
Yeah.
Chinnati is a parpad dhatu. Yeah.
Yes. You can also say sthali pachati. The pot is cooking. Right? Like you say milk is boiling. Don't we say this? So one is that I am boiling the milk. And the other you say that milk is boiling. Right? So when you say milk is boiling, who is the karta? Milk. There is no karma there. So you have made the karma as the karta. So different, you can make different statements. Milk is boiling, pot is boiling. Don't we also say the pot is boiling? So is it that pot is boiling or the milk is boiling or you are boiling or who is boiling? So fire is boiling. You can also say fire is boiling.
So adhikaran, the karan is also used here in karma kartari basically.
Yes. So this is vivakshata karkani bhavanti. There is one principle that karaka, they are dependent on the vivaksha, the intention of the speaker. There are rules, but still the speaker has intention, then you can speak like that. So kasmat nimittat. So what is instrumental that this experience happens? Because now he says vibodho marati means that the experience happens. That's what it says, that vibodhyo bhavitum arhati. Right. It deserves to be known. So by what means? He says amalai shuddhair atmabhi, that by those whose atma here means manas, it's not the soul or inner being or self, when the mind is pure. So by those who have purified mind. Although he says that by the purified mind, but it refers to person who has purified mind. So same thing here. Should have said that those who have purified mind, they can have experience, but saying the purified mind has the experience. So is it the mind who is having the experience, or the person who has the mind is having the experience? So it depends how you want to say it. So swanubhavat, swakarmakad anubhavat. So swanubhavat means that it is swakarmakad anubhavat, the anubhav which is one's karma. So now he says that nanu anubhava khalu antakaran vritti. So what is an experience, anubhava? As I said, experience is nothing but change in your mind. Because when you see something, when you hear something, you are actually not seeing the object. That object has made an impression on your mind, basically. It has made a vritti on your mind. And that's what you call as an experience. Vritti Gyan, right? Advaita Vedanta. So they said that Gyan is nothing but Atma, right? And then we call Vritti Gyan. So why do you call Vritti Gyan as Gyan if Gyan is Atma? He says that is a upachar, that is a secondary usage in Advaita Vedanta. But we don't agree to that. So experience happens according to Yoga, Sankhya and Vaishnava Vedanta also in the manas, in the vritti. But then vritti is a change. So that's what he is saying here. That nanu anubhavaha khalu antah karan vritti sacha sukshma deha vikarmai. And what is this antakaran vritti? It is a transformation of your subtle body, antakaran. So how that is material? So how that can be Brahman? Because the knowledge which we actually have is nothing but material knowledge. Because what it is, just like a little change in the shape of the mind. That's what we call some neurons firing in the brain, right? What they call synapse. So there are neurons which fire in a brain in a particular way, and then you call that one particular knowledge. If you test something, then some neurons fire in your brain. If you hear something, another set of neurons. That's how you make pathways. If you keep on hearing the same thing, how to memorize a sutra. So you keep on firing the same neuron again and again by repeating, right? Then it becomes a permanent thing, and you can remember it. So that's the vritti. So vritti makes a samskara. So things that fire together, wire together. That is the philosophy. So if you fire the sutras together, then you will also remember them together. That's why sometimes you forget the first word of the sloka, then it's difficult to remember because they're all wired together. When you remember the first word, the whole sloka comes to the mind. Right? So therefore, these are all antakaran vrittis. So that's what he's saying. That khalu, anubhava khalu antakaran vritti, sacha sukshma deha vikara mayi. So if this is only a vikara, a transformation of your sukshma deha, subtle body, which is material, so how can you have an experience of Brahman in it which is beyond any vikara, which is nirvikara and which is non-material? How can this material mind make a vritti of Brahman? That's the question. So that's what it says, nirvikara brahma katham vishay kuryat. So nirvikar Brahman means that Brahman does not make any vikara, it does not make any vritti. Brahman is beyond mind, yata vacho nivartante aprapya mansasaha. It's also beyond. So it cannot make vritti. Because to make vritti, it has to be something which is available to the mind. But if it is beyond mind, how mind is going to make a vritti? And if it is not going to make a vritti, how is that experience will happen? See the question raised here. So therefore, ato vishnasti avikriyat. So then that is replied here in the next word of the sloka, avikriyat. न विद्यते विक्रिया विकारो यत्र तथा भूतात. So when there is no vikara, there is no transformation, no change in the mind, then it happens. So you have to make sure that your mind has got no vikaras. That's why on the path of Advaita Vedanta, you have to have vairagya. Now you will understand why vairagya is very important on this path. Because vairagya means without raga. Raga is going to create a vritti. And raga goes along with dvesha. If there is a vairaga, then there is also no dvesha. Raga and dvesha, they go together. So indriyasya arthe raga dvesha vyavastito. Tayorvasam na agacche tauhyasya paripanthina. So they are together. So vairagya also signifies devoid of dvesha. So then there can, because all the vrittis are formed due to raga and dvesha. So when there is no raga and dvesha, then there is no vikara. And then when there is no vikara, then there is manas. Is non-existent actually. You know your manas only if there is some vikara in it. Otherwise you do not know it. It's like if you don't have pain in your tooth, you don't know that you have a tooth. When do you know that you have teeth? When there is pain. Right? When there is no pain, you eat but you don't bother about it. You have no idea. We know in this body when there is some pain in it. If everything is fine, you don't feel it. So manas, you know when there is a vikara in the manas. If it is vikarless, then it is vicarious. So therefore he says, Linga Deha Bhava Eva Vyanjita. So Vikaro hi Maya Dharma. So all Vikaras are characteristic of Maya. Because all this Rag, Dvesha, and from that everything else follows. So those are the Maya Dharma. Such a Maya uprame kutah syat iti. So if Maya has come to an end, then there is no Vikara. When there is no Vikara, then Ling Deha Abhava eva Vyanjita. Then you are free from the subtle body. So you are actually Jivan Mukta. That's what it means. Nanu tadapi brahmano avishyattvena anubhava vishyatva anochityad iti yata punarvishinasti arupatah. So then he says, okay, I don't have linga deha, my mind has no vikara. Still, how can I have an experience of Brahman? Because Brahman is avishaya. Brahmano avishyattvena anubhav vishyatva anochityad. Since it is not an object of experience, then how can it become an object of experience? So then he says, arupataha, rupam vishayas taditrat vishayakaratva rahitat brahmakarat ityartha. He says, yes, this is a different type of experience which happens without making any vritti or without making it an object of your experience. So then when that happens, then your manas is having a brahmakar vritti. But this brahmakar vritti is not an object of experience. It is only an experience, not an object of experience. That is the significance of the word arupata. So there is avikriyat and arupata. No transformation of the mind, means it is not the mind which is taking a shape or anything. It is Brahman which manifests there. So if you remember, in Vedanta we studied vritti vyapya and phal vyapya. So in case of experience of Brahman, this is vritti vyapya, there is no phal vyapyata, because phal vyapyata is when Sakshi Chaitanya comes and illuminates it. So here there is no Sakshi Chaitanya coming and illuminating. That's why it's not an objective experience. It is a subjective experience. And subject, object are one only. It is a subjective experience and there is no distinction. That's why Ananya Bodhyatmataya. And there is no transformation. The vritti happens, but this vritti is not as the transformation of the manas. Just vritti manifests there as Brahmakar. So that's why he says that Brahmakar. Arupta rupam vishayas taditrat vishayakaratva rahitat. It is not vishayakar, it is not taking the shape of the vishaya or of the object of experience. It is Brahmakar vritti. So vritti is there, but it is not a normal vritti. This is the akhanda vritti. Brahmano brahmakar anubhav vishyatvam na dosha iti. So therefore, this experience of Brahman, now this brahmakar anubhav vishyatva is not a defect, because it is not an objective experience. It is not that I am having experience of Brahman. It is not like that. It's just the experience is there, that's all. In fact, you cannot say that it is experience or experienced or experience or nothing. All three things are fudged into one. And that's why it cannot have any description. Because whenever you describe, you make a statement, and the statement will have subject and predicate. So in this experience, there is no division of that this is the subject and this is the predicate. So that's why it is called anirvachaniya. Because you cannot put it in words. Let me just finish it. Then you can have. Nanu asti kim tadbodhe prakarantaram. So he says there is some prakara, because whenever you have some knowledge, then knowledge has a prakara in it. Means if you know that this is ghata, so then this is ghatatva visishta ghatakar. Yeah. So it has got that prakara in it, that distinction. So he says, does this also have this time of prakara or division in this? He says, ananya bodhya atma swarupam yasya tattaya naiva anyatha sa vibodhyo bhavitum arati. He says, no, there is no possibility of any prakara, any division in it, because it is ananya bodhya. Means you are one with it. When you have an experience of ghata, of a part, then you are separate and part is separate, and part has got patatva in it, partness in it. But here it is not like that. So you and the experience are not different. You are the experience and experience is the you. And you are the object of experience. So that is the swarupa, that is the form of this experience. The form of this experience is that it is you only, not different from you. And just like if you want to see something, that something has to be little different from you. If I stick something next to your eyes, you cannot see. It has to be little difference. Our eyes cannot see themselves. So this Brahman is not different from you. So then what can you say about this experience? There is no distinction. So that's why it says ananya bodhyatmataya, that it is non-distinctive experience. That is the form of this experience, that is the swarupa of this experience. Tattaya naiva anyatha vishayi karoti sa vibodhyo bhavitum arhati ityam. Yatha vishayakar anubhava eva shabda sparshadin vishayi karoti na brahma tathe brahmakar anubhava eva brahma vishayi karoti na shabdadin. So he said, just like when you have experience of external objects through your senses, so then in the Vishaya, the object of your experience are all these objects, whether it is sound or taste or touch or form or color. And then the object is never the Brahman. So that mind which is having an experience of external objects, that mind cannot have an experience of Brahman. So that he says that अन्यथा विषय करोति यथा विषयकार अनुभव एव शब्दादि स्पर्शादीन विषय करोति न ब्रह्म. So he says, similarly, when there is an experience of Brahman, that does not have anything else as an object of its experience. Means in that experience there are no such things as taste, form, color. So how would you describe that? Whenever you describe anything, you describe it in a way as an experience of your own sense perceptions. Whether you will say it was big, it was small, it was tasty, it was sweet, it was pungent, it was beautiful music, loud music, harsh music, hot, cold, things which we experience from our senses. But Brahman is not like that, therefore you cannot say anything. So therefore he said, nacha anyatha. That is the meaning of anyatha, that That is the way it is experienced and no other way, and therefore it cannot be stated in any other way. So this is the process of Brahman realization. If you have any questions, yes.
Yes, Babaji, I have a question. Is possible that someone who experience, because we hear that someone is Brahman realized, so it means have the experience of Brahman. So, is possible that someone get out of it, or once this point of Brahman experience happens, the person get there, cannot go down? You was telling last class in class of Bhakti Sandarbha that someone can go further if it's Brahman.
Now, go down means you can come out of the experience. It's not that you are going to have. If you are living in this material body, you have an experience.
And then
you can have an experience for 15 minutes and then come out of it.
Okay.
That is called Vyuthan state.
So how they understand that they had experience of Brahman, but not the experience of their mind?
You have to be educated about it. If you are not educated, then you can mistake.
So learn how is it. So if I learn how is it, the Brahman is described.
Yeah.
And without qualities. Yeah, it's hard for understanding for me. Yeah, and I have the second question about the. You said that there is two types of jnana, two types of jnani. Or not two, it's different jnani before in the beginning. Yeah, so I didn't catch it well. Can you repeat for me, please?
Means those jnanis who are following bhakti to realize the goal of their jnana, which is Brahman. There are others who don't follow bhakti. They want to realize Brahman, but they don't follow bhakti.
But how is it works in the first case? They follow bhakti, but they want to.
Just like your devotee.
Yeah.
So you are following bhakti yoga, but you also do yoga, asana, pranayam, right? But your goal is not to attain that chitta vritti nirodha, which is the goal of yoga. You are only using this.
Yeah, but in my case, I have the material needs as earn money, for example. But in their case,
I'm not
for
talking
what
about money only. You can use this for your health.
Yeah.
So I do exercise.
Yes.
But exercise is not part of bhakti yoga.
Yes.
But I'm using it so that I remain healthy.
So how the.
So therefore they use bhakti to attain their goal.
So they use bhakti to attain Brahman.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
I have a question about this Linga Deha Bhava. So I understand that the idea is that if there is no vikara, manas, then manas does not exist because manas has no more function. And this reminds me a little bit of this philosophy. I forgot the name, but the idea is that if there's a sound in the forest and nobody hears it, that sound does not exist. But if I remember correctly, that we do not accept this idea. So is this an Vedantic idea, and is it only accepted in Advaita Mata?
Well, here it's in Bhāgavatam. It is described here. So the process we have, if you remember in second Canto and many places, yogic process is described where they say that and Krishna is also talking that in Bhagavad Gita, that you offer your senses into the mind into the buddhi into the Mahat-tattva, and Mahat-tattva into Ahankara and all that, and then Prakriti. So what does it mean, all this? Right? You have heard this, that he meditated and then he dissolved his senses.
Yes.
into this. So the meaning is that now you are not making use of those instruments for anything else. So then they are as good as non-existent.
So as good as does not necessarily mean that ontologically or physically they're not existent.
Yes.
Catch.
So this is Brahmakara Vritti. When Brahma doesn't have akar, so what do they exactly mean?
Yeah, it does not have akar, that's what I am saying, that it is like we are trying to describe something which is indescribable.
Yeah, basically.
How to convey it? It can only be conveyed in the way that you can understand it. So we have an idea that there is a ghatakar vritti, patakar vritti, whenever we have an experience, right? So now you have an experience of Brahman, so what are you going to say? So it's a Brahmakar vritti. We are using the word vritti, at the same time he is saying that there is a linga deha bhava. So it is not vritti, it is avishaya, he is also saying. So just utilizing language which has its limitation to still make you understand something which is beyond language. That's the whole idea of yato vacha nivartante, from where the speech means the words cannot explain it. But still we make an effort to put it in words. So trying to do the impossible, basically. So Brahmakar vritti simply means that it's just Brahman which manifests. That's all. That's why he said linga deha bhava, otherwise we are going to think, okay, this is also a transformation. That's the whole idea of saying linga deha bhava. Maya is not there. Means it is not dependent on manas, it is not dependent on any senses, it just happens. Just as like in our bhakti we say that bhakti descends into the senses. Ata Sri Krishna namadi na bhaved grahayam indriye sevan mukha jivado swayam eva spurti. So we say it is a spuran, but in our case, because we accept name, form, Krishna as objects, so that thing happens on the senses, it manifests on the senses, it is easy to understand. But this is a state in between. This is a state in between material experience and spiritual experience of Bhagavan. In between there is a state. So that is what is being described. If I ask you, describe me your deep sleep, what do you experience? So there is no vritti there, but still we say that there is a vritti. Patanjali says there are 5 types of vritti, vrittaya, panchataya, right? So praman, vikalpa, viparya, and then nidra and smriti. So nidra is there. Nidra does not mean the dream. That will come in viparya. But nidra actually means deep sleep. Because we remember that I slept. But that is not a vritti as we know of. It is a vritti in the sense of vritti abhav. So therefore abhav is also taken as a vritti. So that is the linga bhav he is saying here, linga deha bhav. That's exactly what he is saying. So Advaita Vedanti say that the manas and senses, they get dissolved and then they are created again. So we don't say that they get dissolved like that. Yeah, Vilas, you ask.
Could you please explain up to which kind of experience we know that this person had this experience out of his or her own strength or somewhat independent endeavors, and which kind of experience is only possible due to the grace of bhakti. In the beginning you spoke about this sattvika dhyan, that this is something that we perceive oneness, and and then this commentary now spoke about the oneness also between experience and experience, and I would like to understand better what is now the sattvic part of it, the material part, and what is the spiritual experience.
So this is the spiritual one which is being described here. And material is that you just have also something similar, but it is not exactly ananya bodhyatmataya. Because therefore Krishna is also saying ikshate. Sarvabhutesu yenekam bhavam avyayam ikshate. That means his own individuality is there somewhat. So it is not exactly this.
So the key is that the perceiver has still some sense of individuality and can speak about it and describe it in some way?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm interested because sometimes there's a variety of spiritual, or self-proclaimed spiritual teachers, and I just find it interesting to know or to be able to distinguish a little bit better up to what level someone has.
You see, once things go beyond mind, okay? So beyond mind is not only Brahman or Atma, there are other things also. If you transcend your ahankara, then everything is going to be one only. Because what makes distinction of subject and object is your ahankara. Right? If you transcend your own ahankara, then it will be one. Now that oneness can be mistaken as Brahman, Mahatattva, Prakriti, time. They can all be mistaken as one. Because there is no distinction there at that level. So people can have experience of that and they think this is self-realization. So this is different from that.
Okay, I see. And even on a small level I can identify with my family, my house, my community, my land, my country, and in this way just expand my ahankara, but it's still the ahankara, and then
expanding and transcending can go together. Because if you expand everything is this me, that is also transcending. I am Brahmasmi and Neti Neti.
Okay, so Brahmasmi can be, I am the gigantic ahankara?
Yeah.
Or I am beyond ahankara?
Yeah, so what he is talking here is beyond. He is not saying Aham Brahmasmi here.
Brahman for Vaishnav and for Advaitvadis are different. Brahman for Vaishnav and Advaitvadis are different.
Yeah, you can say that. I mean, the way we see and the way they see is different. The word is same. We see this as
without qualifier.
Quality of Krishna, but they don't see it like that. Brahman is Brahman only, but their understanding is different than our understanding.
So their realization also will be different.
Yes.
Babaji, and maybe in the description that we'll going further, or just maybe there is there, but I wasn't able to grasp very well, exist some symptoms, external material symptoms of the person who experiences this Brahman and then goes out from the experience. Exist some symptoms that this experience led in him or her. Yes, this vritti, so to say, this establish of Brahman gets in the person. Exist some external symbols, behavior, or that can help to recognize that for the person itself?
Yes. The most important thing is vairagya. Because such a person then cannot have taste in anything material. It's very simple. So that's, if you see the person's life, then you can see.